At 3:32 in the afternoon on August 14th, 2003, a tree branch in Ohio turned off New York City. Not right away. But that was the start. It was hot. No wind. Outside Cleveland, a power line was carrying so much electricity that the metal heated up and stretched the way metal does, and the line sagged, lower and lower, until it brushed the top of a tree that nobody had trimmed. The line shorted out and shut off. One line in one town. 90 minutes later, 55 million people across 8 states and most of Canada had no power. Trains stopped in their tunnels. Airports went dark. Almost 100 people would die. It was the biggest blackout in the history of North America, and it started with a tree. So, how does a tree branch in Ohio turn off the lights in Manhattan? The answer is strange. The whole eastern half of this continent, every power plant from Florida to Canada, is secretly one single machine. One enormous machine, spinning in the dark, that you become part of every time you flip a switch. And nobody ever decided to build it that way. It just happened. This is the story of that machine, how it works, why it's beautiful, and why one summer afternoon it tore itself apart. Here's the thing most people get wrong about electricity. You probably picture it like water in a pipe. It flows from the power plant through the wires into your house, and out comes the light. Push it in one end, it comes out the other. A river. That's not how the big grid works. The electricity in your walls isn't flowing one direction like a river. It's sloshing back and forth. Forward, then back, then forward again. 60 times every second. Picture the ocean instead of a river. A tide that rushes in, then pulls out, in, then out, over and over, incredibly fast. Now, that sloshing has to come from somewhere, and it comes from a generator at a power plant. A generator is basically a giant magnet spinning inside a coil of wire. Spin the magnet, and you get electricity. And the speed the magnet spins is what sets the rhythm of the slosh. Spin it 60 times a second, you get electricity that sloshes 60 times a second. So far, simple. One generator, one rhythm. But there isn't one generator. There are thousands of them, all wired into the same grid, all feeding the same wires that feed your house. And here's where it gets interesting. If 2 generators are sloshing out of step, one pushing while the other pulls, they fight. And the fight is not gentle. We're talking machines the size of school buses, weighing hundreds of tons. And if they're out of step, the metal can rip itself apart. So they can't be out of step. There's only one arrangement that works. Every single generator on the grid has to slosh in perfect unison. Every tide rising at the same instant, falling at the same instant. All of them, all the time, across the entire continent. The engineers call this being in sync. I want you to picture it differently. Picture thousands of spinning tops scattered across half a continent, all somehow tied together with invisible rods. They can't speed up alone. They can't slow down alone. If one tries, the others yank it back in line. They spin as one thing. That is the grid. Not a network of separate plants politely sharing power. One single machine with thousands of spinning parts locked together, turning in step 60 times a second, every second, for decades. And nobody designed it as one machine. They just kept building power plants and plugging them into the same wires. The moment you plug an AC generator into the grid, it has no choice. It falls into step, or it tears itself apart. The biggest machine ever built, and it assembled itself. Okay, So why does any of that matter? Why should you care that the generators spin in step? Because that lockstep is also a shock absorber. And to see why, you have to know one more thing about your house. There is no battery in your wall. None. There's no giant tank of electricity stored up somewhere, waiting for you. When you flip a light switch, the electricity to run that light is made the instant you flip it, right then. Somewhere out there, a generator has to spin a tiny bit harder, that very second, to power your bulb. Sit with that for a moment, because it's wild. Every light, every phone charger, every air conditioner, every factory, all turning on and off millions of times a second, all day, across the whole continent. And the power to run every one of them is made at the exact instant it's needed. There's no warehouse, there's no buffer. Supply has to match demand perfectly, continuously, forever. And nobody's in charge of making that happen. There's no control room where someone watches the whole grid and dials it up and down. It balances itself automatically through the physics. Here's how. When 1 million people turn on their lights at once, that sudden demand drags on every generator on the grid, like a heavier load on a bike. The spinning magnets slow down just a hair. The whole grid dips a tiny bit below 60, and the power plants feel that dip instantly and feed in more, and it climbs right back. When demand drops, the opposite. The grid speeds up a hair, the plants ease off, up and down, a tiny bit, every second of every day. The grid is breathing. But here's the beautiful part, the part that makes the whole machine work. Those thousands of spinning generators are heavy, hundreds of tons each, all turning at once. And heavy spinning things have momentum. Think of a merry-go-round. When you stop pushing, it doesn't stop. It keeps coasting, because all that weight wants to keep moving. The entire grid is like that, one continent-sized merry-go-round, made of every generator at once, all that spinning metal, storing up momentum. And that momentum is the shock absorber. When a power plant suddenly drops offline, the lights don't go out, because the whole grid just coasts on its own spin for a few seconds. Enough time for other plants to ramp up and cover the gap. The momentum buys time. It catches you. This is the quiet miracle running under your floor right now. A self-balancing machine the size of a continent, with no driver, holding 60 steady, catching every stumble with its own momentum. But hold on to that idea, because the very same thing that catches a small stumble is what spreads a big one. The momentum holds you together until the day it carries you all down at once. Chapter 3. Now we go back to Ohio, and now you can actually see what happened. Remember that one line that sagged into a tree at 3:32? Here's what you didn't know. More than an hour earlier, at 2:14, the alarm system in the control room of the power company, First Energy, had quietly broken. The screen that was supposed to warn the operators when a line went down just stopped working, and nobody noticed. So for the next hour and a half, the people running the grid in northern Ohio were flying completely blind. They had no idea anything was wrong. So when that first line sagged into the tree and shut off, the operators didn't see it. And the electricity that line had been carrying didn't just disappear. It had to go somewhere. So it dumped onto the next line over. You can probably see where this goes. That next line was now carrying its own load, plus the dead line's load. So it heated up, and stretched, and sagged, and shorted out on something below it, and dumped its load onto the next line, which overloaded, and sagged, and tripped Harding Chamberlain, then Hannah Juniper, then Star South Canton. one after another, faster and faster. In 1/2 hour stretch, 16 major lines went down across Ohio, each death making the next one come quicker. And then it reached the machine itself, the spinning part. Because remember, all those generators across the eastern half of the continent are locked together, turning in step. And now, a huge chunk of the grid is collapsing. The careful balance is shattering, and the generators feel it instantly, the way they feel everything. So they do exactly what they were built to do. Each generator has a protection switch, a kind of reflex that says, if the grid around me goes crazy, cut myself loose before I get ripped apart. It's self-defense. And one after another, sensing the chaos, the generators threw that switch and dropped off the grid. Not because they were broken, because they were protecting themselves. In about 3 minutes, 21 power plants shut down. 55 million people lost power. And here's the part that should stop you cold. The grid didn't fail. The grid did precisely what it was designed to do. Every machine protected itself, exactly as intended. The blackout wasn't the system breaking. The blackout was the system surviving. The same momentum, the same lockstep that catches you when one plant stumbles is the thing that passed the collapse from plant to plant to plant, all the way to New York. The machine held together right up until the only way to save itself was to switch itself off. Let me tell you the strangest thing about this machine. Stranger than the blackout. For most of the last 100 years, that steady 60 times a second rhythm was so reliable that people used it to tell time. Think about an old alarm clock, the kind with the glowing numbers that plugs into the wall, or the clock on an old oven. A lot of those clocks didn't keep time with their own little crystal, like a wristwatch does. They kept time by counting the grid. 60 slosh cycles, that's 1 second. 60 seconds of that, 1 minute. The clock on your oven was, in a real sense, just watching the power plants spin, which created a very strange problem. If every clock in the country is counting grid cycles, then the grid has to deliver exactly the right number of cycles every single day. The math works out to 5,184,000 cycles in 24 hours. Deliver too few, and every clock in America runs slow. Too many, and they all run fast. But we just said the grid drifts. It runs a hair slow when everybody's using power during the day, a hair fast at night when demand drops. So over a day, the cycles don't quite add up, and all those clocks start to drift off. Left alone, your oven clock could gain 20 minutes over a year. So they fixed it, on purpose, by hand. There was a person at the grid operator whose actual job title was time monitor. And the time monitor would watch the clocks drift and then deliberately tell the power plants to speed the entire grid up overnight or slow it down to pay back the missing cycles. One human being nudging the spin of a continent so the ovens of America would show the right time in the morning. And here's the kicker. Years later, somebody studied the grid's worst frequency wobbles, the dangerous dips, the kind that contribute to blackouts. And it turned out that 97% of them happened during one of these deliberate clock corrections. The thing they were doing to keep the clocks honest was shaking the grid harder than almost anything else. In 2018, they finally gave up and stopped requiring it. Your clocks moved on to other ways of keeping time, and mostly nobody noticed the grid had ever been doing it at all. That's the kind of machine this is. So precise, it ran the nation's clocks. So delicate that keeping those clocks running was itself a danger. So, a tree branch in Ohio turned off New York City. And now you know why. It wasn't really the tree. The tree was just the first thing to go. What turned off New York was the same thing that had kept New York's lights on, flawlessly, for decades. One single machine, the size of half a continent. Thousands of generators, the weight of buildings, all spinning in perfect step, 60 times a second, balancing themselves with no one at the wheel, coasting on their own momentum, catching every stumble, until the stumble was too big, and the machine, doing exactly what it was built to do, saved itself by going dark. You will never see this machine. It has no edges, no front door, no single place you could stand and look at it. But it is running right now, under the floor, behind the wall, out past the edge of town where the big lines hum. And the next time you flip a switch and the light just comes on, like it always does, like it's nothing, remember what actually happened. Somewhere, that very instant, a magnet, the size of a bus, spun a little harder, just for you, and the whole continent felt it.